dark days to speak of the Elderwood with some deference, as both the young and old know it is a place of great danger, filled with tricks and traps laid by the last true children of the wilds. Yet this was not always the case, and in the bygone age before the gods fell, these fair folk did mingle with a wide-eyed humankind, both for good and ill. Tales of those misadventures exist even to this day, perhaps the last surviving stories of a more innocent time, captured and passed down so those who came after us will remember the magic that has been lost to witchery and shadow. But let us not speak of sad things. Here is but one telling of those touched by the old forest and the strange creatures living within it. For the elder wood was once home to brave knights, gentle dryads, and odd spirits, large and small, and some reside there still perhaps, as if you are lucky and pure of heart, you may one day even meet one yourself. Sounds like more of a Halloween event, really. Many years ago, in a kingdom to the south of the great Elderwood, there lived a good-natured husband and wife who worked as toy makers. They had a young daughter whose name was Rowan, as gentle and pleasant as a child could be, and together they lived quite happily, making all manner of playthings from the wood of the forest. The toys fashioned by Rowan's parents were greatly desired, even by members of the noble houses, and because of this, they became wealthy and well-renowned. The toys were never damaged, no matter how roughly children played, and never grew old no matter how much time had passed, and each was a work of art, unique in everything but name, never to be made again, for this was the magic of the Elderwood, such as it was back then. It has it had been said that Rowan's great-grandfather had once saved a fledgling spirit, and in return his family had been blessed for 102 years, so that they might harvest a single tree each year and from it make as many creations as they desired. No creature would harm him or his descendants, even the great guardian Hecarim, so long as his family never turned against the denizens of the forest, and not more than a single tree was taken on the first day of spring. They must also live away from the walls of the city to signify the bond of spirit and man, and in return the Elderwood would extend its protection to their kin forevermore. Rowan's family did respect the terms of this agreement for 101 years, and they were joyful for it. On the eve of the 102nd year, a nobleman from a foreign land visited Rowan and her parents. His name was Bryn, and he fancied himself a king, though in truth his lands were small and his influence was quite minor among the lords and ladies of the kingdoms. As such, he was obsessed with baubles, giving the appearance of wealth and status, and so mesmerized by those wooden toys that he decided he must have as many as he could, so that in his court they might be considered commonplace. Honored toy maker, he declared, these treasures are priceless, and yet you would sell them for such a pittance to the children of this land. Is it not more prudent to create them for a noble such as I? I could pay thee greatly and fill thy coffers, so thy family may never want again. Rowan's father refused, as the Elderwood provided all the family needed. I do not wish to sell my wares for profit, though their fame has blessed me greatly. I strive only to honor my agreement with the great forest, as my father did and his father before. Honored toymaker, declared Bryn, thy fame is known throughout the lands, and yet you would live among the edges of the untamed wilds. Craft these treasures in the name of my house, and I will build ye a great mansion upon the river bank, so ye might be the envy of all other men. Again Rowan's father refused, even when they could harvest the trees no further. His family would always have a place among the fair folk of the Elderwood. I'm sorry, he said, but ye may purchase any wares within these walls, and bring them back to thy court. They never age or wear, and I'm sure that will suffice. Now Bryn became furious. If thou wouldst reject such a generous offer, I will burn thy workshop to the ground. The Elderwood does not extend as far as my kingdom, and by the time its children come to thine aid, thy life will be spent, and thy family slaughtered. I will take these treasures for my own, and that will be the end of it. With this, Rowan's father relented, and the Lord Bryn would return 1 month hence to claim every toy crafted from the final gifted tree. Father, said Rowan, for she knew much despite her years. What will we do? Though his lands are few, this man is a lord nonetheless, and might call upon a great many knights. True, said Rowan's father, but in his hubris he disregards the spirits of the wood. Take warm clothes from thy mother and a bundle of foodstuffs, and go to the place called Copperwood Glade. There thy eyes will fall upon a great tree as hard as armor plate. Sleep softly at its base, and the spirit that blesses this house will appear in a dream to barter with you. But beware, for it is not a kind spirit, but a violent one. If thy words are false, or thy offers unfair, or it senses darkness in thy heart, then it will cut thy soul away, and thy body will never wake. And so Rowan did take warm clothes from her mother and a bundle of food, and traveled into the elder wood. As her parents raced to carve toys for the Lord Bryn, in case her request failed. Before long, Rowan did stumble upon a quiet glade apart from the forest. At its center, an ancient tree whose bark shone like polished copper. Around it were the bones of many people, their tattered belongings covered in deep green moss. Rowan could not hear the birds or the streams of the whispers of countless spirits in this place, only silence, as though not even the wind would dare disturb its countless secrets. She felt a great dread here, as though she were being watched. But despite her fear, she unpacked her bundle and buttoned up her warm coat and rested herself against the base of the copperwood tree, as her father had told her to do. Soon enough she fell deeply asleep. The sun's rays danced across her cheeks, and it seemed that these old bones strewn about were barely a bother anymore. She woke in the dead of night to the sound of a hymn. Now Rowan was brave and kind, but the words creaked and moaned like a beetle-filled log, and rustled like the branches of an old dead willow, and soon enough her fear returned to her. Her father's warning did echo in her ears, warning of a vicious thing, and so Rowan cried out, Art thou the spirit of Copperwood Glade? And for a while the hymn continued as if to answer the question. Then the logs and the moss and the branches and the trees grew still, and the hymn ceased, and a strange, misshapen apparition did appear at the edges of the glade. Its arms hung low and ended in sharpened blades, and its head turned unnaturally against its strange wooden body, and it looked at Rowan without expression. What for good child, said the spirit, its voice creaking like rotten timber. But this was the old tongue, older by far even than Rowan's great-grandfather, and she could not understand it. Ah, said the spirit, it has been many years since thy ancestor lent me his aid. Forgive me, for time does not pass for us as it does for thee, and often I confuse the mortal tongues. I am called Nocturne, and I am the spirit you seek. What dost thou desire, child? I wish to hear thy words, but speak not falsely, or I will cut thy soul away, and thy body will rot in the glade with those others who have aimed to trick a creature such as I. Yet the spirit did not draw closer, and Rowan's fear would not subside. O Nocturne, she said, 101 years have passed since thee blessed my house, and this year will be the last. We have always honored thy will and the will of the elder wood, and from this we will never falter. But a lord named Bryn now threatens us with death, and we entreat thee for protection. Ah, said Nocturne, drawing closer. Rowan saw that he floated above the ground, and scraped his long blades across it as he went, and the bones beneath them were sliced clean in twain, as though they were made from air. I have heard of this Bryn, and his lands to the west, where the air is warm and the forest thin. Should he slay thy family and steal thy treasure, I promise to take his life in return. O Nocturne, replied Rowan, we are unlike spirits of the wood. We have but a single life, and when it is spent, go from this world hence and do not return. Couldst thou act against him now? Would that I could offer something to a spirit such as thee in payment. Ah, said Nocturne, drawing closer. His hands trembled in excitement, and his blades clicked as they cut the stones and armor and paltry belongings scattered before him, and Rowan did feel within him a thirst for violence. Perhaps if I had something fresh to eat and something warm to wear, then I could make the journey westward. And Rowan did give Nocturne her bundle of foodstuffs and her warm clothes, despite his body of bark and blades. Ah, said Nocturne, rising up before Rowan, his carved face peering into her eyes. But are thy words true? I wonder, what is the content of thy heart? And he sank a blade deep inside her chest and raised her body high above his head. Yet Rowan was silent and resolute, for she knew her fate when she saw the bones scattered about Copperwood Glade, and accepted it gladly. Nocturne then lowered Rowan and placed her before him. Her wounds were healed. Your words are spoken truly, and your offerings are given freely, and your heart is kind. You will not die upon this day. Go back to your home and live your life, and the Lord Bryn will never trouble thee again. And Rowan did thank the spirit, and then she awoke. She returned to her home at the edge of the Elderwood, and her family went on to take the final tree, and then lived happily for many generations until they became one with the forest, as was the agreement they had struck so many years before. As for Lord Bren, he and his knights were slain by a vicious spirit while they rested, and his kingdom fell into a dark slumber from which it never awakened. The Elderwood grew quickly towards these lands, and consumed them utterly within the year, with nary a soul escaping. One can still find their ruins in the place now known as Somberwood, where it is said the spirit Nocturne visits from time to time to admire his handiwork. Very